So anytime I was making a decision or deciding where my time would go, I would circle back around to if that particular thing would get me closer to my goal or farther away.
You are listening to the Beyond the Classroom podcast, a podcast for burnt-out teachers who know something's gotta give. After teaching for 14 years and feeling completely burned out for way too long, in May of 2022, I made a big decision and left the classroom. I now help burnt-out teachers like you take back balance and joy so you can wake up every day loving your life. In this podcast, we'll explore who you are beyond the classroom, whether you're considering leaving or wanting to make changes so you can fall in love with teaching again. Either way, I understand what it's like to be living a life that looks fun and cute on the outside. You know, summer's off, playing all day, off at 2 o'clock every day, but actually feels miserable and draining. I'm your host and coach, Sandy Patterson, and I'm so excited to help you step into your fullest potential and believe in that potential to make an impact on the world, not just survive each day. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Classroom podcast. I am so happy you're here again, as always. And today I am going to start to answer a common question that I get and something that a lot of my clients are working on right now as well. And I figured that this is something that people want to know about and need to know about if you're thinking about making a change. Now, you know, for me, the decision to leave the classroom was not made lightly. There was a lot of thought and planning that went into this decision. And really, the decision to leave for me was easy. It was actually doing it and executing. That's the hard part, right? And I knew in order to execute, I was going to need to set myself up beforehand in order to feel comfortable and ready to leave. So essentially, I needed a plan. And this is that common question that I get asked often. What did you do to set yourself up before you left the classroom? And this is a great question, and it has a lot of parts to it, a lot of pieces. And I know that the financial piece of this question is huge. I completely get that. People want to know how I knew I would essentially be okay financially when I left and kind of what my timeline was there. So today we're going to chat about this, and I'll shed a little light on how I was able to make it work in the financial area and in other areas as well. And I'm going to be super transparent here on this episode, so bear with me, and I can't wait to hear if any of this resonates with you or if these are things that you have thought about as well. So let's get into it. There were 5 things that helped me feel confident in my decision to leave. And as I reflect, I realize how important, like I said, it's kind of like a puzzle, and each piece really had to come together to make this happen and to make it work. Okay. So the first thing that I did that made me feel confident in leaving the classroom was knowing my numbers. Now, when I say numbers, I'm talking about my financial numbers. And at first, for me, numbers were scary. I don't like numbers. I don't particularly love math. But you have to know what you need in order to make the transition less scary and actually doable. And this is something that I actually worked on with my coach prior to leaving the classroom. And I hear a lot of teachers say that they need to match their income right when they leave the classroom. So they want to have, when they leave, they want to have another job or another something set up so that when they leave, their income is essentially the same. Now, this is great in theory, and it would be very nice. However, you might be surprised when you sit down and you actually look at your numbers here for what you actually need. So when I left, I sat down and I mapped out a few things here. So I looked at how much money I needed in 1 month to be comfortable. So to just sustain kind of what I have already been doing, what I was used to having. I also mapped out how much money I needed to make in a month
to just get by, like to pay the bills and to barely get by. So that would be like my cutting back number. Like we'll be okay, but we're going to have to cut back a little bit on other fun stuff. I also decided how much cushion I wanted to have, which just meant how much I wanted to have saved up, that if something happened, I would be okay for X amount of months. So for me, that number was 3 months. So I knew that I wanted to have enough saved up in a separate account that if for 3 months I was making no money, that we would be totally okay. We would be able to pay the bills. We would be able to pay the mortgage. We would be able to buy groceries, all that stuff, pay for the boys, extracurricular stuff. So I knew that number. Now this number, of course, is going to vary from person to person. And that monthly number too is also going to vary. So you might be a person that just wants to have 1 month of cushion. You might be a person that has 6 months or a year. It's totally up to you and it can vary. But if you don't know that number, you cannot really plan, right? And it's true that knowledge is power, because by knowing these numbers, it made the idea way less scary, because I knew exactly what my goals were and exactly for how long I had, when I needed the money by, and how much it was going to be. And by doing this, I was also able to determine how many clients I needed at what rate. And I'll talk about clients in just a minute, how many bar classes I was going to have to teach each week to hit those numbers. So you can see, like, just by knowing these numbers, it made it less scary, right? So I knew what I needed. I knew the target, I knew the goal, and then I could break it down from there. And like I said before, a lot of people, honestly, I didn't even do this at first. Not that I didn't think to do it, but I think I just didn't want to, because it's scary. Like it's not a fun thing to do, right? It's scary and it's uncomfortable, but it gives you that knowledge. And again, knowledge is power, because by knowing, then you have that target and you know what you're going to reach for. So that is thing number one. I knew my numbers. Second thing I did was to prioritize my time and energy. Now, essentially, prior to leaving the classroom, I was working 3 jobs. Okay, so I was teaching full time. That was job number 1. I became a bar instructor, like I've mentioned before. So that was job number 2. I was teaching bar classes outside of, obviously, my teaching hours. And then job number 3, I was building a business, essentially, as a virtual assistant doing freelance work. And, don't forget number 4. I was working 4 jobs, being a mom. So that's definitely a full-time job as well. Job I love, but it's definitely, it takes time, right? So those 2 extra pieces for me, teaching bar classes and doing freelance VA work, those were going to be the way that I was going to be able to put that financial piece into play, because I knew my numbers and I knew what I needed to make and in what amount of time. It made it, again, less scary. And yes, I am going to be very transparent here. That time frame, especially when I think back at it, was a little bit nutty because I was doing so many things. But I knew that it was a short time frame, that it was going to be like that, and that putting the work in then was going to pay off, because I was essentially setting myself up to leave my teaching job. So I would say that time frame for me lasted about 6 months. So 6 months prior to me leaving the classroom, that's when I was starting to build this business. I was starting to teach bar classes. And again, people would be like, oh my gosh, how are you doing all these things? I'm like, oh my goodness, it was a little crazy, but again, I told people I'm just setting myself up. So this is short term for me. I'm going to put the work in now, and it's going to pay off later. And it definitely did. So in order to make all of those things work and not completely lose my mind, I had to figure out what my priorities were in each area, right? We're only human and we can only do so much, literally and figuratively. So I had to decide where I was going to focus my time and energy. And I had to be very, very intentional about it. Now, this was actually easier than I thought, because I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to set myself up so when I left, I would feel confident in that decision, and I knew that financially I was going to have something to fall back on, right? So anytime I was making a decision or deciding where my time would go, I would circle back around to if that particular thing would get me closer to my goal or farther away. If it was closer, then it was a yes. If it was farther, it was a no. And I know saying no can be difficult, and I know pulling back in certain areas of your life can feel like failure. But for me, that was not the case. I was so clear about what I needed and what I wanted that it was like something had to give. So I was able to look at all of the things that I was doing, and I was able to pull the things that didn't get me towards that goal off of my plate. So that was number 2. The third thing was knowing I was not going to be able to do it on my own. And when I say do it on my own, I mean transition out of the classroom. I mean build a business. I mean figure out what my life was going to look like. And I mean work on my mindset, right? I knew I was going to need people around me who were going to help me believe that what I was doing was possible. So this was people who had done it before, for me to lean on and learn from, and also people who were going through it at the same time. And so again, I've talked about this quite a bit, but I made friendships outside of my circle of women and people who had done exactly what I was doing before. And again, the purpose of that was, of course, to lean on them, ask them questions, absorb all of their expertise in what I was doing, but also to help me believe that it was possible. You have to see people that are doing it for that example, right? Otherwise, it's only natural for you to just think, oh, I can't do this. So I knew I was going to need those people. So I found my people. I found that through friendships that I made online with other women who were transitioning out of the classroom, who were building businesses, who had done it before and had done it successfully, to hold on to that idea that I was going to be able to do this. And even now, I think that's important no matter what, right? To surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you and push you forward. And I talk about this often as well. You're going to want to turn around and run back because it's comfortable and it's not scary. So you have to have people that are there that are going to continue to push you forward and let you keep going and remind you that you've got this, that believe in you. So find your people. The fourth thing I did was work on my mindset. Okay, your mindset is key to anything you do. And I talk about this in episode 2, so I'll link that in the show notes. But your mindset is seriously everything. Whether you're wanting to make a change, whether you're wanting to stay in any aspect of your life, mindset is important. And it was not until I started working with my own coach that I realized how true this really is. Your mindset will dictate whether you succeed or fail in anything. Our thoughts create our feelings. Your feelings create actions, and actions dictate how you show up or how you don't show up. And that creates results, which in turn creates motivation and momentum, right? So going all the way back to the beginning, your thoughts are so important. And I realize how hard it is to stop and take a breath and start to recognize the stories that we are telling ourselves, because the days are so fast. So many people are relying on us. But when you stop and you start to recognize and you start to notice the things that you're telling yourself, the thoughts that you're having about certain things, the stories that you tell yourself and that you start to believe are true, you can take control of it. So being aware is the first thing, and that is exactly what I did. So I did this, and I'm still doing this because mindset work really never ends. There is no end game there in mindset work. You got to constantly be intentional about it. I did a lot of work to debunk a lot of the stories and thoughts that I had been telling myself for a long time. And I realized a lot of those thoughts were ingrained in me because of teaching and because of having that education background and that culture and that environment. For example, I had a legit scarcity mindset, and I felt this way about time, about money, about support, about resources, about pretty much everything. And I will say 100% that what I've found is that teachers, and this is myself included, are typically working from a scarcity mindset. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough money or funds. We don't have enough support. And I know this because I lived it daily for years, and that 100% becomes ingrained in how you operate in other aspects of your life. And you carry this into how you operate every day. So believing constantly that you don't have enough of something, whether it's time or money or anything else, that those things are going to run out or there's not enough of it, this is not the best place to make decisions from or to operate from. So I have worked so hard to work myself into an abundance mindset. And that really has been one of the hardest things that I have worked to do. But it's also helped me get to where I am now. And if I had have let that scarcity mindset get in the way and decided that I didn't have enough time to build a business while I was still teaching full time, or I wasn't going to have enough money to sustain when I left teaching, or there's not enough, resources out there for me to figure this out, that really would have stopped me in my tracks. And being totally, again, transparent and honest, do these things still freak me out? Yes, of course they do, every once in a while. But because of the mindset work I did, and I do every day, I know better now how to manage my thoughts in order to show up and how I want to show up too. And I'm much better at recognizing these thoughts, stopping them, pausing, asking if they're true, flipping them. And now I'm essentially rewriting a story of abundance in my life, that there is enough. There's enough money. There is enough time to do everything I want. And this is true in any aspect of our lives, right? And really, everything always works out. I know that is so cliche, but it's so true. So that topic of abundance and scarcity mindset, that'll probably be a whole nother episode because I know that it's something that teachers operate in and from and might not even realize it, but that can be a huge game changer. Mindset work is a game changer. Now, last but not least, the fifth thing I did to set myself up when I left the classroom was believe I could. And this one is tied to the 4 previous ones as well. But I talk about this a lot. If you say you're stuck, then you're going to remain stuck. That's just the truth. I made a very conscious and intentional decision to believe that I could make this huge change and that I would be okay, that everything would be okay, that everything would work out. And I had my own back. I knew, if worst comes to worst, played out that worst case scenario in my head. And I said, then what would I do? I knew everything was going to be okay. And it is. It's okay. Everything is okay. Everything is always okay. You're exactly where you need to be right now, no matter what. And everything will always work out. So I worked again on that mindset to believe that I could do it. I hear teachers say all the time, I'm stuck in teaching. I'm stuck. If you believe you're stuck, then you are going to remain stuck. But if you can flip that and you can say, I don't like where I am. I'm ready to put my foot down and I'm ready to make a change and I'm willing to put the work in to figure out how to do this, then there is always a way. Always a way. So, to sum up this episode, there were 5 things that I did to make my transition out of the classroom successful and to set myself up to succeed once I left. Number 1, I knew my numbers. This is scary, but you just got to know them. Number 2, I intentionally prioritized my time and my energy. I pulled back in a lot of areas in order to focus my time and energy in new areas and build new things up. Number 3, I found my people. I still have these people in my life, still surround myself with these people who are continuing to help me dream bigger, help push me forward, and help keep me going. Number 4, I got my thoughts and my mindset in check. This is essential for anybody, no matter what. And number 5, I believed I could do it. I truly believed that this was it. There was no turning back and I could do it. And I did. So for me, these were the keys to my success in being able to get out of the classroom to begin building the life that I wanted. And now I am obsessed with helping other women do the same thing. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Beyond the Classroom podcast. I will see you next time. I cannot wait. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Classroom.
If you know something has to change and you're ready to take the next step to make it happen, whether it's in or out of the classroom, let's talk it through together. Schedule a no-obligation chat with me and we can talk through where you're stuck, how to get you unstuck, and how to keep you moving forward. Schedule your free call today by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to connect with you.